You know that feeling when everything finally falls into place? That's exactly how I felt standing in my newly renovated loft. After 6 long years of hard work, I could finally say I own my dream space. My name is Eliza, I'm 32, and this is my story. I remember the day my design firm won that big project like it was yesterday. My partner rushed into my office, and I thought something had gone wrong. Instead, she handed me a contract with a figure that made my heart race. From that day forward, I lived with focus. No designer clothes, no fancy meals out, nothing. Every dollar went into my savings. But I'll be honest, it wasn't just my savings that made this possible. A year ago, my grandmother, Eleanor, passed away. She was my mother's mother, and she left me $150,000 in her will. That money, with everything I'd saved, meant I could finally stop dreaming and start looking. When I found this historic loft with brick walls and high ceilings, I knew it was the one. Not too large, not too small, just perfect. The best part? No mortgage. The agent did a double take when I said I'd pay in full. The look on her face when I signed those papers? Priceless. I couldn't help myself. As soon as I got the keys, I took countless photos and posted them online. My friends and colleagues went crazy with likes and comments. Congratulations, Eliza. Living the creative dream. When's the housewarming party? It felt amazing to have so many people genuinely happy for me. Then my phone rang. The name on the screen made my stomach tighten. It was Warren, my father. Eliza, he said, his voice as dry as old blueprints. I need you to come over for lunch next Saturday. That call brought back everything I'd been trying to forget. See, my mom died when I was 9. Cancer. It tore our family apart. But Warren? He didn't stay single for long. Within a year, he married Victoria, and a year after that, they had my half-sister. Victoria never liked me much, even before she had her own child. But after that's when things got really bad. Suddenly, there were all these new rules, and they only seemed to apply to me. Eliza, you need to be quieter with those sketches. Eliza, you can't have friends over to see your designs. Eliza, put those building plans away right now. Meanwhile, my half-sister got everything. New art supplies? She got them first. Latest design books? Hers before she could ask. Museum trips? Planned around her schedule. It was like I'd become invisible in my own home, while Warren and Victoria doted on their precious daughter. Sometimes I wondered if they even noticed I existed. But thank God for Grandma Eleanor. I don't think I would have survived those years without her. As things got worse at home, I spent more time at her house. She lived just 15 minutes away by bike, and her door was always open. Her house became my creative sanctuary. My cousins, Zachary, Emma, and little Tommy were often there too. They were my aunt, Patricia's kids, and unlike my half-sister, they treated me like family. We'd spend hours exploring designs, visiting buildings, or sketching in Eleanor's garden. Meanwhile, back at my father's house, things were deteriorating. My sister, Megan, had turned into a nightmare. She'd hide my drafting tools, spill coffee on my designs, and claim my ideas as her own. But somehow, I was always blamed. Eliza, why are you making your sister upset? Victoria would demand. Eliza, stop antagonizing Megan, Warren would echo, not bothering to hear my side. The day I got my architecture school acceptance letter was probably the most liberating day of my life. Not because of the program, though getting a scholarship was validating, but because I could finally escape. The university was 3 states away, and Eleanor helped pay what the scholarship didn't cover. Design school was like breathing creative oxygen after years of suffocation. I immersed myself in studies, called Eleanor twice weekly, and tried to forget my father's family. Warren rarely called. He was too occupied with his artistically gifted daughter. When he did, our conversations were brief and shallow. After graduation, I had to return to my home state. I had an offer from Harrington Design, and it was too promising to decline. I assumed I'd stay with Warren until I found my place, but Victoria quickly shut that down. Oh, we converted your room into Megan's art studio, she said with fake sympathy. She needs the space for her creative process. You understand, don't you? Warren didn't defend me. Not one word. Thankfully, Eleanor welcomed me with open arms. I stayed with her while starting my new job and soon saved enough for my own studio. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Then, a year ago, Eleanor passed away suddenly, a stroke in her sleep. She left her house to my cousins, who lived closer and maintained it. To me, she left $150,000, money she'd invested her whole life. For the granddaughter who carries forward my passion for spaces, she wrote in her will. This past year has been quiet. Warren and his perfect family haven't bothered with me. They didn't invite me for Christmas, not that I was surprised. I spent it with my aunt, Patricia, and my cousins instead, and it was the best Christmas in years. That Saturday, I drove to my father's house with a knot in my stomach. The closer I got, the tighter it became. I checked my watch. It was 11:57. Still early, but I'd rather be early than give Victoria reason to criticize me. I rang the doorbell, counting seconds until someone answered. Warren opened the door, face blank. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. "No hello, no how are you, just come in." They were waiting in the living room. Victoria perched on her designer chair like a queen, and Megan sprawled on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. Victoria barely acknowledged me with a nod. Megan didn't even look up. "Sit down," Warren said, gesturing to the isolated chair across from them. I felt like I was facing a client rejection. The silence was thick enough to cut. Warren cleared his throat twice before speaking. "Megan has been accepted to art school," he announced proudly. "She's enrolled in the local university." I nodded, unsure where this was going. Was I supposed to congratulate her? I hadn't even known she applied. "That's nice," I said when it was clear they expected a response. "She needs somewhere inspiring to live," Warren continued, eyes fixed above my head. "Somewhere close to campus for her artistic development." Another pause. Victoria nodded like a dashboard bobblehead. And, well, Warren shifted in his seat. "Your loft would be perfect. It's in an ideal location, close to the art college." "I'm not looking for a roommate," I said slowly, still trying to process what was happening. Warren shook his head, finally meeting my eyes. "You misunderstand, Eliza. We're not asking you to let Megan live with you. We're asking you to give her your loft." I actually laughed, a short, sharp sound that died as soon as I saw their faces. They were serious. They were actually serious. "Give her my loft?" I repeated, certain I must have heard wrong. "As in, give up my home? The one I just designed? The one I worked years to afford?" "Yes," Warren said firmly, like he was explaining something very simple to a very stupid child. "Megan needs it more than you do for her artistic growth." I sat there staring at them, wondering if I'd somehow slipped into an alternate reality. My loft, the one I'd saved every penny for, the one I bought with my inheritance from Eleanor. They wanted me to just give it away. To the same Megan who was still refusing to even look at me. "She deserves it more than you do," Victoria said, her voice dripping with that same condescension she'd used on me since I was 9 years old. "After all, what have you done to deserve such a creative space? Living all alone in a historic loft while my talented Megan has to consider student housing?" I shot to my feet so fast my chair almost tipped over. "Are you all completely insane?" My voice came out stronger than I expected. "I'm not giving up my loft. Not now. Not ever. I bought that place with my own money." Warren's face darkened. "Your own money? Your grandmother gave you $150,000. That's hardly your own money." Something snapped inside me. All those years of staying quiet, of taking their dismissal, of trying to be the bigger person, gone in an instant. "My grandmother?" I laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. "You mean my mother's mother? The woman who actually nurtured my design talent when you were too busy playing happy family with your new wife and daughter? That grandmother? The one who has absolutely no relation to Megan whatsoever?" Megan chose that moment to finally look up from her phone, her face scrunching up in that familiar way that always preceded her rehearsed tears. "You're such a terrible sister." she wailed, right on cue. You've always been so mean to me. You've never supported my art. Eliza, Warren said, his voice hard. I'm very disappointed in you. This is not how we raised you. You didn't raise me at all. The words exploded out of me. You checked out the moment Mom died and Victoria moved in. Don't you dare talk about how you raised me. I grabbed my portfolio bag and headed for the door, my whole body shaking. Behind me, I could hear Megan's theatrical sobs, Victoria's comforting murmurs, and Warren calling my name, but I didn't stop. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. But the next morning, my phone rang. Warren again. Eliza, listen to me. He started before I could even say hello. You're the older sister. You need to help Megan. This is what family does. I almost laughed. Family. Now you want to talk about family? Where was this family spirit when Victoria kicked me out of my room? When Megan was making my life hell? When you didn't even invite me to Christmas? That's different, he insisted. You're being unreasonable. You're crazy. I cut him off. Actually crazy if you think I'm going to give my loft to someone who spent her entire life trying to hurt me. Don't call me again about this. I hung up, but it wasn't over. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing with messages from Victoria. You've always been jealous of Megan's talent. You're just like your mother, selfish and ungrateful. After everything we've done for you. I stared at the messages, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. Warren kept calling throughout the day, but I stopped answering. What was the point? The conversation would just go in circles, him demanding I give up my home, me refusing, him guilt-tripping me about family obligations. A week after the confrontation, I decided to go ahead with my housewarming party. My loft was filled with people who actually mattered, colleagues from my design firm, architecture school friends, and my cousins. The sound of genuine laughter and conversation felt like a cleansing ritual, washing away the toxicity of the previous weekend. Eliza, Emma called from the kitchen. We're running low on ice. I was heading to the freezer when my cousin, Zachary, grabbed my arm. His face was serious, unusual for him, as he's typically the family joker. Hey, I need to show you something, he said quietly, guiding me toward the hallway. You might want to sit down for this. I perched on the edge of my new custom ottoman as Zachary pulled out his phone. He hesitated for a moment, then handed it to me. I was at Vincenzo's last night with some friends, he explained. Look who I saw in the back booth. The first photo made my heart stop. There was Victoria, my stepmother, sitting in a dimly lit restaurant booth. But she wasn't alone. A man I'd never seen before had his arm around her, and they were kissing. Not a friendly peck, but the kind of kiss that leaves no doubt about the nature of a relationship. More photos followed. Victoria laughing, her hand on the man's chest. The man feeding her a bite of dessert. Their fingers intertwined on the table. They looked comfortable together, intimate, like lovers who'd done this 1,000 times before. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Zachary. I began. I know I shouldn't have taken pictures, but send them to me, I interrupted, my voice barely a whisper. Please. After the party ended and my last guest left, I sat in my dark living room staring at the photos Zachary had sent. Who was this man? I needed to know. It didn't take long to find him. Victoria wasn't exactly subtle. He was right there in her Facebook friends list. Gabriel Hewitt. I clicked on his profile and felt my world tilt on its axis. Gabriel Hewitt had been working in high-end real estate development for 20 years, the same industry where Victoria worked, the same field she'd been in since before she married my father. I scrolled through his photos, going back years. There were industry galas, property launches, holiday celebrations, and in so many of them, there she was. Sometimes just in the background, sometimes partially out of frame, but I recognized her. 20 years of photos showing a relationship that clearly went far beyond professional courtesy. One photo from 15 years ago caught my eye, a woman in a red dress, her face turned away from the camera, sitting on a terrace with Gabriel. The caption read, Perfect Sunday afternoon. The woman's hair, her posture, her favorite red dress that she still had in her closet. It was Victoria, 3 years into her marriage to my father. I opened another tab and searched for more recent photos of Gabriel Hewitt. As his face filled my screen, something else hit me like a physical blow. Those eyes, that nose, the way his mouth curved up slightly at the corners even when he wasn't really smiling. I pulled up a recent photo of Megan on my phone and held it next to the screen. The resemblance was undeniable. How had I never seen it before? Megan looked nothing like my father. She never had. But she was practically a carbon copy of Gabriel Hewitt. The truth was burning a hole in my pocket for 2 days. I walked around in a daze, carrying the weight of what I discovered. Every time I looked at the photos, I felt sick to my stomach. 20 years of deception, and my father completely blind to it all. When his number flashed on my phone screen again, I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Eliza, his voice was stern, authoritative, the voice he used when he thought he was being a father. We need to have a serious conversation. Come to the house now. I considered telling him everything right then, blurting out the truth about his wife's 2-decade affair, about Megan's real father. But some instinct told me to wait. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said instead. They were waiting in the living room, just Warren and Victoria this time. Sit down, Eliza, Warren commanded, and I complied, playing the dutiful daughter one last time. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. Your behavior has been disappointing, he began, pacing in front of the fireplace. This selfishness, this refusal to help your sister. It stops now. I watched Victoria nodding along, and my stomach turned. The audacity of this woman, demanding I give up my loft to her illegitimate daughter. I've made a decision, Warren continued, his voice hard. Either you sign over your loft to Megan, or I'm writing you out of my will completely. No inheritance, no family money, nothing. Victoria's face lit up with triumph. They really thought they had me cornered. I forced my expression into one of shock and distress. I need to think about this, I whispered, watching Victoria's smile grow wider. Good girl, Warren said, his voice softening slightly. You take some time to think about what really matters. Could I use the bathroom first? I asked, making my voice small and shaky. Warren waved his hand dismissively, and I hurried upstairs. But instead of going to the bathroom, I slipped into Megan's room, my old room. Everything was artfully arranged and perfect, just like Megan's entire life had been. Her hairbrush sat on the vanity, full of long dark strands that matched Gabriel Hewitt's exactly. My hand shaking slightly, I pulled a small plastic bag from my pocket and carefully collected several strands. Next, I crept into Warren's bedroom. His comb was right where it always was, on his dresser next to his wedding photo. The irony wasn't lost on me as I collected his hair into a second bag. That night, I researched DNA testing facilities, the kind that did paternity tests, the kind that would hold up in court if needed. It wasn't cheap, nearly $2,000 for rush processing, but it would be worth every penny. The next morning, I walked into the facility with my 2 carefully labeled bags. The technician explained the process, had me fill out forms, and assured me I'd have results in a few weeks. The DNA test results arrived in a plain white envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it, though I already knew what it would say. The clinical language was unmistakable. The alleged father is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. The probability of paternity is 0%. Then, as if on cue, my phone rang. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. We're tired of waiting, she snapped, not bothering with hello. Your father and I need your decision about the loft within the next few days. Otherwise you can kiss your inheritance goodbye. I kept my voice steady, calm. Actually, I've been thinking about everything. I'll come over for dinner this Saturday. We can discuss it then. Saturday evening, I drove to their house again, the DNA test results tucked safely in my portfolio. This time, the knot in my stomach wasn't from anxiety. It was anticipation. They were all waiting in the living room, looking like developers who'd cornered a prime property. Victoria was practically glowing with triumph. Megan sprawled on the couch examining her sketches with a smirk. Warren stood by the fireplace trying to look stern but barely containing his satisfaction. Finally, Megan drawled. Took you long enough to make the right decision. Warren stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. I'm glad you've changed your mind, Eliza. This is what family is all about, helping each other. I shrugged off his hand. I haven't changed my mind. I'm not giving up my loft. Not now, not ever. You selfish brat. Warren's face turned red. That's it. You're out of the will. Everything goes to Megan, my real daughter, the one who actually understands family loyalty. I couldn't help it. I laughed. The sound echoed through the room, making them all stare at me like I'd lost my mind. Your real daughter? I reached into my portfolio. That's interesting, Warren, because I have something you need to see. I pulled out the envelope and held it out to him. He snatched it, glaring at me as he yanked the papers out. Read it, I said softly. Read it out loud. He began reading, his voice confident at first. DNA relationship testing report. Then his face started to change. The color drained from his cheeks as he reached the crucial line. The paper shook in his hands. Victoria made a sound like she'd been punched in the gut. This is a lie. She screamed, her face contorted with panic. She forged these documents. She's trying to turn you against me, against us. I have more proof, I said quietly, pulling out my phone while Victoria continued to scream about forgery. My fingers shook slightly as I pulled up the photos Zachary had taken. Look. The room fell silent as I held up the screen. There was Victoria, locked in an intimate embrace with Gabriel Hewitt. The timestamp showed it was from just last week. Victoria crumpled onto the couch, her mask of superiority finally cracking. Warren, please, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I can explain. Explain? He roared, making us all jump. Explain what? How long? He demanded. 20 years, she whispered. He's my colleague in real estate. Megan. Gabriel is her father. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched my father's world collapse in real time, 20 years of lies crashing down around him. Without another word, I picked up my portfolio and walked out, leaving them to their reckoning. The next week passed in a blur. I went to work, came home, tried to process everything that had happened. I heard through the design community that Victoria and Megan had moved out, that Warren had hired the city's best divorce lawyer, that the scandal had spread through their social circle like wildfire. When Warren's number appeared on my phone a week later, I almost didn't answer. But something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe hope, made me pick up. Can we meet? His voice sounded rough, tired. Coffee at Morton's Cafe. I found him at a corner table, staring into a cold cup of coffee. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in a week, unshaven, shoulders slumped, wedding ring conspicuously absent. I filed for divorce, he said without preamble. Victoria, Anne, and Megan are gone. I told them to get out of my house. I've stopped Megan's tuition payments too. Why should I pay for another man's child? I sat silently, stirring my lot, waiting. Eliza, his voice cracked. I've been a terrible father to you. Yes, I agreed calmly. You have. All these years, I favored Megan over you. I let Victoria treat you like an outsider in your own home. I didn't protect you, didn't support you. I failed you in every way possible. You did, I said. And you never would have realized it if you hadn't found out about Megan. If she had been your biological daughter, you would have kept treating me like a second-class citizen. You would have taken my loft from me and given it to her without a second thought. He flinched at my words but didn't deny them. Please, he whispered, reaching across the table. I pulled my hand back before he could touch it. Please give me a chance to make it right. Let me try to be the father you deserved all along. That was 3 months ago. We meet sometimes now. Coffee, lunch, careful conversations about design principles and projects. He tries to make up for lost time, telling me stories about Mom's creative spirit that he'd never shared before, asking about my designs, my colleagues, my inspirations. But full forgiveness? I'm not there yet. Maybe I never will be. 20 years of rejection and dismissal left scars that won't heal overnight, if they ever heal at all. As for Victoria and Megan, I hear things occasionally through the industry network. They moved in with Gabriel Hewitt, I think, started living the life they've been secretly planning all along. But honestly, I don't really care. They're part of a blueprint in my life that I've completely redesigned now.